Hennepin County says during the pandemic, people were 4 times as likely to report symptoms of anxiety or depression. So the county recently voted to allocate $20 million of federal COVID money for mental health initiatives. We sat down with Hennepin County Commissioner Irene Fernando to learn more in today's Newsmakers.
Mental health is health. It certainly can hope that over the last couple years we have deepened our understanding around the many ways that health and mental health and behavioral health might express itself for young people, for those who are vulnerable, for those who are in need of resources. And so this past week we have made a much larger investment than typical, $20 million to support the entire range of what mental health, behavioral health, again, because it is health. And it's important for our residents, for our young people, for vulnerable people, and for our communities.
And what will that look like?
So it's a whole range. Some of it is increasing or expanding what we already do with a big focus on youth and their families. So think of school-based mental health programs or mental health support for families as a whole. Some of it is expanding hours. So for example, we have a facility called 1800 Chicago. It's a beautiful place for residents who may be in need of crisis support or mental health support. If I were to call 911 today and was in need of that type of support, sometimes a jail cell or an emergency room bed are the only really viable options for me. Neither of those are likely suitable for my needs, and certainly during a pandemic, we want to be able to not add further strain to our hospital systems. So 1800 Chicago is now 24/7, so that's an expansion of existing hours. And then we're also getting to further test some of the pilots that we've been prioritizing around public safety, justice initiatives, and our 911.
And the hope too, I believe, is for this to reach more diverse populations, which certainly applies to some of the northwest suburbs.
Definitely, definitely. You know, when we look at the whole of Hennepin, 45 cities organized into 7 districts, there are certain pockets of the community, northwest suburbs included, that are disproportionately impacted, not only by some of the devastating impacts of the pandemic, but we're also seeing need. Think of food supports. So how are we meeting residents where they're at in a restorative and holistic way, in ways that are meaningful and supportive to their families and to their livelihoods? And so those who are perhaps in need of language supports, immigrant populations, people who have often been either overlooked or at times just completely ignored by our systems, we're really hoping to center in a different way through these investments.
All right, we'll be watching to see how it goes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now to an issue the city of New Hope has been working on, flooding at Civic Center Park. The issues have only gotten worse during the Xylon Avenue reconstruction project, and the city reviewed these photos at its last meeting. Staff say the playground was built in 2012, but over time the existing drain tile has stopped working. The tile has been plugged with sand or engineered wood fiber and it's not draining properly. The city council voted on a plan to install pipes and a catch basin to improve drainage. Meanwhile, the city of New Hope strengthened its ordinance on domestic animals. The changes came in regards to chickens. The ordinance increases the maximum amount of chickens from 3 to 4. It also clarified that only chickens are allowed, so no roosters, ducks, peacocks, or birds of any kind. It also adds language that is similar to Crystal's city code on coop conditions allowed. You do have to have a permit to be allowed chickens, and it does have to be renewed every year. For some students, it's hard to grasp how classroom learning will translate to the real world. But as Delane Cleveland reports in School Spotlight, the Compass program at Wayzata High School is helping students find direction by using a different approach to teaching.
So let's talk about you.
A standardized test likely won't have any information about creating a personal brand.
What do you want to be known for? Who do you want to be?
But in the real world, how you present yourself can make a huge difference in finding a job or advancing your career.
What do others say about you? And what do you want them to say?
Lynn Bebo is helping to prepare these juniors and seniors at Wayzata High School for life after high school.
Okay.
Only she's not a teacher, but rather an executive from Bank of America who's acting as a guest instructor.
I just think it's really important to help the students connect their learning to a professional life to what they need to do in their lives moving forward.
For the past 5 years,
What's the rule?
business leaders like Bebo have shared their expertise with students in Wayzata's Compass program. Wayzata partners with local businesses who help shape the curriculum and mentor students in the process.
We rely on the concept that all of our young people come here with gifts, and we want them to recognize those gifts and be able to see where those gifts will be applicable inside of a given career.
Young people, such as senior Nick Nermer.
With all the guest speakers we have, it shows you lots of different careers, lots of different people, what they do with their jobs.
Nermer is one of more than 100 students who had to go through an application process to be here. Each student dresses in business casual attire and devotes half their day to the class. They all get college credit and real-world knowledge.
There's a difference between just doing research on a job and hearing about it versus, having a mentor who works in that job and being able to have a conversation with them about it. So I definitely think that this is a class that will definitely help me narrow down what I want to do when I grow up.
Let's do this.
It's never too early to think about life beyond high school, and professionals like Bebo are happy to help these students choose the path that works for them.
I'm inspired because I think there is so much power in this generation.
In Plymouth, Delane Cleveland, CCX News.
A Wayzata teacher is in the spotlight and on local television. France Roberts is featured quite a few times in this ad that is running on local channels. It was produced by Education Minnesota. Mr. Roberts teaches at Meadow Ridge Elementary, and he was also one of the 9 finalists in the 2021 Minnesota Teacher of the Year contest.